So today we're going to check out Judd Lionheart podcast. He's talking about full body training and the benefits. Let's check that out. Greek Freak Training. Here we go.
People would be much better off for several reasons if they did more total body training. Okay, I don't care what their goals are.
I am Judd Lionheart, former Army Ranger, college linebacker. I've been a strength and performance coach for over 15 years. Let's get into it.
Every sport in the world is a total body sport. That being said, it just makes sense that if we as human beings have to do total body activities, that maybe we should consider more often than not training as such. And we have to get over that feeling of not feeling like we completely trashed a muscle, because you don't need to trash a muscle to get it to grow bigger and stronger. This whole body split training is a fairly new invention. 4 sets of something isn't 4 times better than 1 set. Good quality sets and reps are much more beneficial than just doing more and more. Total body splits fit into our lives so much better. You can do so many different types of workouts and blend so many more types of exercises and training modalities together with that. I think we still believe that we cannot get as big or as strong if we do total body workouts. That is a false belief. It's how we naturally move as human beings.
All right, so he has some good points. You can do full body workouts and get great gains. It's all about how you're doing your splits, how many reps you're getting for the course of the week. Now, do most people do this when they go to the gym? No. Most people do the old school training, 1 body part a day, or they might do 2 body parts a day or 2 or 3, like chest, back, tris, back and bis, and then they do legs and core maybe. But the split of 3 times a week, usually the standard is really just for someone that's new. So if like you have a new person and they're just starting out, 3 times a week because you're not doing as much volume, which means you're not doing as much weight or as many sets. So that's what the volume is. So basically he's saying that you can get just as good a gains by doing 3 times a week. Gains as far as muscle, athleticism, which we have a lot in common because we both train a lot of pro athletes. Let's hear what he has to say. We'll touch back on that in a second.
Okay, today I'm going to make a case for why you should consider doing total body workouts regardless of what your goal is, whether that be to lean out, to get bigger, to get stronger, just to be more athletic. Total body workouts, in my educated opinion, are probably the best way to go. So there's a lot of reasons for that. And then when people, first of all, let me back up. I think people tend to focus a little too much on their splits. And that's what it's called. Like, what's your split? It's a very common question I get asked, and it doesn't matter all that much. There's a lot of splits that will work. Okay. And I always tell people the split you should use is the one that you like to do the best. Okay. I would hesitate to recommend or warn people about doing like pure bro splits, like chest and tris, back and bis, or having a chest day and then having a shoulder day and having a tricep day. And while it's definitely better than nothing for sure, and it's okay for muscle size, there are way better ways to go.
Now let's look at, he's got a point. Because if you're doing 1 muscle group a day, you're probably going to have to be in the gym for like an hour and a half to 2 hours. Because you're going to have to try to get so much volume in that workout. Most likely you're going to have to do somewhere between 120 to 150 reps for the entire workout. Let's just say you're doing legs. That way you're going to be able to get those maximum gains and get enough overload in that workout to get muscle gains. That's why normally you're doing them twice a week, which is standard, to get all that volume in for the week. So let's hear what he has to say.
So the 3 splits that I wouldn't caution people against doing, that I think are just fine, okay? A push-pull leg split, which is just fine if you want to do that. An upper-lower split, so upper body, lower body. I do upper-lower a lot too. And then the last and best option is total body. And why is that? I think total body splits have gotten associated with, people over time that just want to like get in a quick workout, like circuit training and stuff like that don't really care about size and strength and aren't really fitness professionals. But if you look at most really good high level programs, a lot of times during the year, those strength coaches and trainers are having their athletes do total body training for several reasons. So one is frequency. So a lot of recent research has shown just how important frequency is in your training. Now, what is frequency? I'm sure a lot of you already know this, but there's three main things that you have to consider when you're talking about training. Intensity. Now, I've gone over this before. Intensity isn't how hard something is, okay? Intensity is at any one moment, how close are you to going at your maximum effort, whether that be running, jumping, or lifting, okay? So doing a set of 20 on back squats is extraordinarily hard. And people will be like, man, that's intense. But doing, a set of 3 where you leave a couple in the tank is pretty easy. That's actually more intense, scientifically speaking, because at any one rep.
He is talking the truth there, because there's something called reps in reserve. You can actually get more muscle by not going to failure every set. For example, say you're doing bench and you're pushing really hard. You know that you could probably get 8 reps. Well, you end up doing 6 instead of 8. And the crazy thing is you didn't go to failure, right? Which usually stimulates the fat switch muscle fibers to give you 100% muscle gain. But you're close to failure. And what you can do at this point is do multiple sets. So instead of doing like 3 sets, you could actually do 6 sets without going to failure with 2 reps in reserve per set and get more muscle gain. All right, so let's check this out.
You're closer to your 1 rep maximum effort than on that set of 20. And at the set of 20, when you start to struggle, it's simply because you're reaching, muscular failure at that point. So
now he's got a point. High reps, though, in general, you can still get muscle gain. But the difference between the high reps and the lower reps, like 6 to 12, 6 to 15, if you're doing a little high reps on the smaller muscle groups like arms, calves, abs, stuff like that. The higher reps, the difference is you're going to have to be failing, really, really dying on those last, say, 5 reps of 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. It's a little different than the lower rep scheme. The lower rep scheme, you wouldn't have to go to failure. You could do more sets to get muscle. The higher rep scheme, the higher reps, you're going to have to get absolutely dying on those sets to get that muscle gain. So that's why I choose the lower, but you just have to make sure that what rep range you're in. If you're doing really, really low rep range, it's hard on the muscles. So you're going to have to basically come off of that and do some higher reps here and there and deload, and then get back into that, back and forth, and switch it up. All right, here we go.
I guess you could say that the last couple reps of a 20, rep squat are intense, but it doesn't really meet the definition as far as creating the desired adaptations are concerned. So intensity is one factor. And then the other factor is volume. It's just how much total work you do over a given period of time. And that can be, volume takes the shape of total amount of work, and that takes the place of how much weight you've lifted, how many reps you've done it, how much time your muscles have been under tension. And then frequency is just the amount of times during that time frame that you tax a muscle or a system, okay? So those are the 3 main categories. And a lot of times when I say frequency and volume, it doesn't click with people right away. So backing up a little bit, like studies recently have definitely shown the value to increased frequency, doing things more often, given the same amount of volume. So just because you do things more often doesn't mean the volume has to go up. So if you do, let's say 20 sets of legs over the week, and you have a couple options, right? You can do all 20 sets in one day. You can split it up and do 10 sets on one day, 10 another, which is good too. Or you can do, 5 sets one day, 5 sets another, 10 sets on the third, or something like that. So the final option has the most frequency, even though all of the volume is the same, if that makes sense.
And he's talking the truth there. Because if you're going to do what he's suggesting, the 3 times a week, what you would have to do is make sure you're getting enough volume in all of those workouts split up. So you're not doing as much every workout. Let's say you're doing squats, right? Let's say 4 sets of squats for 8 reps. That's about 32 reps, right? 18, yeah. So then you decide also to do leg press, and you do 5 sets of 12. Right there, that's 60 reps. So 60, so that's 80 reps. So that's plenty of legs for that workout. And then the next workout, you could switch it up. You could do RDLs for reps of, let's just say 8 to 10. And then you go maybe 3 or 4 sets there. Then you head over to the leg curl, the prone leg curl preferably, and you're going to be getting maybe 3 or 4 sets of 10. So that would be all you would have to do with that one as well, mixing in your upper body with those workouts and splitting up maybe a push with legs on the first day, a pull with legs on the second day, and then the third one when you do legs again, and add in a different leg workout like lunges and maybe hack squats or anything that's going to be a different leg, and you can group those together good with a different muscle group and still get the same amount of gains. It's just not standard today in working out, but it is beneficial. So if it's better for your time frame to do that and you need to get everything in, it's a choice method to use, and you'll still get just as much muscle by doing that, as long as you're getting the total volume in those 3 workouts for the week.
So especially for things like strength, studies consistently show that given that all the other things stay the same, intensity and volume, more frequency is definitely better than more volume in one given day. For muscle size, which is, what a lot of people care about, it doesn't matter quite as much. And so that's why bro splits do sort of work for bodybuilders.
I like the bro splits, bro. The name is choice.
Another reason is most of those dudes are on steroids. And that's something we'll go into in a minute. For natural lifters, and this is the way bodybuilders actually used to train back in the day, is they would do total body workouts 3 times a week.
Now, does the Greek Freak do total body workouts? My name's Anthony Romanis, by the way. I go by Tony. You can call me Tony, T-Master, whatever you want to call me, the Greek Freak. It's Greek Freak training, not like Giannis. But I am really Greek, and he was born in Greece. But he's not Greek. Let's just get that. I'm Greek. When you're really Greek,
they would hit every major body part, Most good college programs do it too. Now, why is that? For one, more of the volume on any given day, when you do that, you're fresher. If I rest a couple days and I do 5 sets of squats, I'll be fairly fresh for all 5 sets. But if I do 10 sets of squats or a squat pattern on one day, the last 5 sets of that, I'm already fatigued, and the benefits that I can get from those, my strength will go down, my power, my focus.
That's totally true. If you notice that, usually I do legs on Monday, so I'm pretty waxed. But the way that I set up my workout is if I do legs, the next day I'll mix my push and pulls together. And then on my Wednesday workout, I'll do shoulders and arms. And the reason I hit that in the middle of the week is that's not as challenging. It's kind of like I'm giving my body a break because I'm doing multiple days back to back. But he's right. You're going to be more fresh if you're, taking that split and doing it, waiting a couple of days, not doing as many sets, and you can hit it harder on the next time you work out. But what I do, I don't have that luxury. I've got to get in my workouts every day to get everything in. So I'm training clients in between. I'm just trying to get my workouts in while I'm at the gym. So I'm trying to set it up where I do my hardest at the beginning of the week with legs. Then I'll hit chest and back. That's still very challenging. But then when I get to Wednesday, I kind of consider that I'm bringing the intensity down as far as like what muscle groups I'm using. So I won't have to push as hard as far as like straining. So then by Thursday and Friday again, I can hit my legs again. And then on Fridays, I'll do push-pull again. So that works for me. But for standard, most people that work out that are like professionals and stuff, this might work better because they're fresh. They have to focus at work. They're not like dragging all the time. And they're going to recover better and be able to push harder during the times that they do train.
Won't get as much out of those 5 sets, but if I divide those up, I can get more out of every set that I do. Okay. That's a big reason. And that's a big reason why it's so beneficial for strength gains, especially. This whole body split training is a fairly new invention. And it really came about in like the late 60s when the bodybuilders started to do body split training. And it also non-coincidentally correlated with steroid use. So, when somebody's on anabolics, they can handle more volume on a given day, and then they stay anabolic for longer. So it's a fundamentally different way that they need to train than a natural athlete. So we can't, or I'm not natural, I'm sorry, I take testosterone, but I don't do bodybuilder levels of testosterone, but it still helps, right? But even people like me that take testosterone, we benefit more by more frequency. And so that's not just for natural athletes, but natural athletes definitely would benefit more by training more frequently because they can't stay anabolic as long. So it means that after you tax a muscle for 24 to 48 hours to 72 hours, you're still gaining strength and recovering from that. But then after that, you go through a phase where you're kind of in the middle, and then you start to detrain just a little bit. Not a lot, but a little bit. So whereas bodybuilders that are on steroids or people on steroids, they stay anabolic for much longer. They also tend, somebody on anabolics, they can store more glycogen in their muscles and more water. Throughout that training session, they can handle more volume, where as a natural lifter, the benefits we get, the diminishing returns, start to kick in really quickly. So a lot of studies have shown you get 80% of your benefit from the first 2 working sets. More volume is better, but there's a diminishing return.
And he's got a point there. When you're fresh, that's why you always do your compound exercises first. And those are usually your lower rep schemes. So let me give you an example of compound. It would be a bench press, conventional deadlift, a pull-up. Those are all, and squats, of course. So those, you're fresh, and you're going to get the most gains. It would actually help boost your own natural testosterone levels at the beginning. That's why you want to go the heaviest. So usually in those rep schemes, I'm about 5 to 8. Unless I'm doing conventional deadlifts, then I'm doing 3 to 5, as that's designed more for a lower rep range. But the other ones, 5 to 8, would be really good, and you can push the hardest, go the heaviest when you're fresh. And then as the workout goes on, then you're going to back off and go a little higher reps and keep going. So if you're doing, let's just say legs again, and then the next exercise, you do 5 to 8 on squats, and you go to leg press, and you do anywhere from 10 to 12. So you're going a little lighter. You're still pushing hard, but now your reps are going up. That way you push the hardest at the first one, and then say after that, you go to prone leg curls, where you might do sets of 10. But again, it's not as aggressive as a squat or a leg press. So you see I'm kind of taking the intensity down a little bit as I'm moving on. And that way you'll be able to finish the workout strong. You push really hard at the beginning of the workout. And then as the workout goes on, your lower reps are getting a little higher and then a little higher. And then you could finish maybe on some lunges for like 12 reps on each leg. And that way you're going to get a complete workout. You're going to feel better. And your rest time can actually go down on the easier exercises because you're not pushing as hard. So then you're going to get a better sweat. You're going to get more cardiac output. And you're going to be sweaty and get an overall better workout.
The total amount of volume you do, both for strength training and hypertrophy, quickly diminishes as you add more volume. So 4 sets of something isn't 4 times better than 1 set. It might be 20% better, okay? So I always look at it like, 2 sets is definitely better than 1. 3 sets is definitely better than 2. 4 sets, you get a little bit more benefit, but then you really have to start weighing the benefit drawback, like the little bit more benefit versus all of the extra fatigue you're going to accumulate from that 4 set. That's why 3 sets of 10 is so common and pervasive. Like, people roll their eyes at it, but it's actually pretty decent because 10 is a nice middle ground number between size and strength. I'd probably prefer 7. I think it's probably like the optimal number if there is one. But 10's pretty darn good. And most people care more about muscle size and strength anyway, like the general population.
It does have a point. 8 to 10 reps is probably the standard for strength training for hypertrophy, as you're going to get more hypertrophy in that rep range, which means you're going to get more muscle. 8 to 10 is probably the best as far as like overall, if you're going to be setting your exercises up and trying to get, especially doing these full body splits, you're almost going to have to do that rep range in order to get enough volume and enough repetitions in the workout to achieve the muscle that he is stating that you can get. So that's a good point.
10 is a really good amount of reps, especially like if you go with a common movement speed, like a couple seconds down, a brief pause, and 1 or 2 seconds up. If you do 10 reps of that, your muscle's under tension for about 30 seconds, which a lot of studies show that's about the optimal amount of time to keep your muscles under tension to see hypertrophy. And then 3 sets is kind of that sweet spot where you get a good little bump from 3 sets versus 2 working sets, but the 4th set, you don't really get as much, and it really starts to cause more fatigue than you get benefit there. So that whole 3 sets of 10, I know we roll our eyes at it, it's not bad advice, and you can't go wrong doing 3 sets of 10 if you're just trying to get generally fit.
I mean, he's right. 3 sets of 10, generally fit. That's totally true on that. The only thing about the 4 sets is say that you're not doing full body workout 3 times a week. You're going to have to get the volume in. So if you're doing the workouts where you're getting, 1 a day for the week, you're probably going to have to do 4 sets on every single exercise. And you're going to have to do a lot in that routine to try to maintain getting that higher rep range, which I would shoot for probably 160 reps total if you're going 1 day a week just to really overload and get maximum gains. That's what I would suggest. Lowest I would shoot for is 120, but 150 reps would be my goal as far as like using a one muscle group a day training for the week. So one a days, which is very old school. You can get injured a lot doing that too because you're really overloading. Say you're doing bench, you're doing flat bench, incline bench, decline bench, dumbbells. Like you're overloading so much, so you're putting so much strain on your muscles that it's going to be hard to recover. So you're literally going to have to take that entire week off to recover, but you're going to be growing. But again, there are benefits to it, but at the same time, there are pros and cons, and the cons are you just need to watch those. So if you're staying in that higher rep range, not going super, super low range, you could probably get away with it without injury. Those are kind of like your choices on those two as far as like doing multiple days rather than one day a week.
When I work out or when I train, I normally do 2 or 3 sets, usually the first working set, stuff's still not quite moving just right. By the second one, I got it down. I get, pretty good. And the third one is that one I really start to feel tired. And I know I should probably stop, if I want to continue to have a quality workout. So it does kind of support the high intensity training that, Arthur Jones and Mike Menser did that, they had some good points there. I think they missed the mark on a lot of things, but really good quality sets and reps are much more beneficial than just doing more and more. I think we all should inherently know that, right?
He is right. You want to do good quality sets because if your technique is good, you're going to have less injury. Now, the new research states that the negatives aren't actually going to be recruiting more muscle fibers like people used to think. That's true. So you could basically put on a weight and just slap it around and go crazy. The only downside of that is if you're going to be doing that, your form could be bad, and if the weight's subjective heavier weight load, then you could get hurt by trying to use different muscle groups like arching your back on bench or slinging your body curls, like bridging your back way back like that. That stuff is going to be more susceptible to injury. So good quality sets would mean your technique has to be really good in order to maintain good technique without injuries. He's got a point on that, and I do recommend good quality sets. That's why doing that negative is going to help keep the form controlled. Will you have a less injuries?
I'm not a big fan of going to complete failure very often, especially not with my compound movements, which is what high intensity training requires. And you get a lot of benefits even if you stop 1 or 2 reps shy of failure. So I'm kind of getting off track here a little bit, but that just goes to show you that less volume, better sets is important, and under that umbrella of thought, more frequent workouts is better to keep the total volume about the same. So another big reason that you should do is it allows for maximal flexibility in your training. So if we do body split training, especially if we're only hitting the body part once a week and things in our life come up that mess with our schedule and we have to miss a day or something like that, or we get sick or injured or tweak something or whatever it is, where our training gets interrupted, it is much harder to make up for that if we're doing body part specific training. Total body training is much more flexible in a lot of ways, but especially with a busy schedule. So if I worked out on Monday, did a total body training session on Monday, and I'm supposed to do it again on Thursday or Wednesday, but something comes up on Wednesday and I have to bump it to Thursday, it's really not that big a deal because I'm going to be hitting it again. I just hit it a couple days, and resting 2 days versus 3, it might actually be a little bit better.
How the 2 days to 3 days split, you're just not going to be able to hit as much volume. 1 day split, if you're doing full body, obviously you're not going to be hitting as much volume or sets or reps for that workout. You're not going to need as much rest. 1 day would be good. And let's say, again, let's look at, let's say you do pull-ups and you do 3 sets of 10. And then you might do is seated rows and you do 3 sets of 10. So that's 60 reps. And then you go to the next exercise. Same concept for each muscle group. So you're not tearing the muscle down too much, so it's not going to have to repair as much, and then the next workout you'll do the same concept and just change up the exercises. You don't have to change the exercises, but I would, just to change it up so you can get a little more variety and you're not getting so bored with the routine.
Total body splits fit into our lives so much better. The next thing I mean by flexible is you can do so many different types of workouts and blend so many more types of exercises and training modalities together with that. There are so many great exercises out there, like snatches and cleans and burpees. People hate on burpees. Maybe that's a bad example. I like burpees just fine, but so many things that you can't really put those in a category, like as far as the body part it's working, right? Like even deadlifts. Like, do you put deadlifts on your leg day or your back day or your trap day?
But I can give you a little advice on the deadlifts. It is going to tax your legs a little bit, but the squats, when you're doing really, 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 really deep squats, it's going to be hard to group a conventional deadlift close to that workout. So I'm not a big fan of pairing conventional deadlifts with squats. It's just too much. It's too intense. But I am a big fan of pairing squats with leg press. The way I would set that up is I would do my conventional deadlifts on back day, because you get a lot of back growth from doing conventional deadlifts. And then that way you'll have a split, and it would probably be at least a 2-day split before you hit those conventional deadlifts on that pull day.
Total body split, and a lot of landmine stuff too. Like, it's hard to say what body. Everybody wants to know what muscle is this working. Well, a lot of times it's kind of working a lot of muscles. All right.
The landmine's legit. Super good conditioning, super good core. So if you're familiar with the landmine, Google some or YouTube some exercises on a bunch of landmine exercises for core. You can mix in shoulders. I mean, you can do leg stuff there. It's a great component to add to the workout, especially at the end of your workouts. For core, it's nasty. So I would definitely check that out.
A lot of great exercises we just don't do, or people don't do, because they just don't know what body part to pair that with. If you see like a snatch from the ground, you're like, well, what do I put this in? Do I put this on my leg day or my shoulder day or my back day? Whereas with total body, it's just a power exercise that you can put on any day of the week. It's fine.
So on snatches, a really good thing to do, if you're someone who likes to get your heart rate up, if you check out some of my earlier videos I did, 30-minute workouts, you'll see me mixing in snatches in between sets of compound exercise or secondary compound like a dumbbell press. And you can either do it with the dumbbell press or a bench press and do snatches in between. You get a lot of core and a lot of heart rate. It'll get you in sick shape. You're going to burn more calories, and you're going to get a killer workout. Sweat a lot, get a lot more cardiac output. So if you're going to mix in a snatch, I recommend doing it more on a push day, and it'll work great as far as pairing those together.
It just makes it way easier to structure your workouts. You can get way more creative with it, and you can start combining upper and lower supersets and things like that we're going to. And you can start doing like more French contrast training and things like that. And so that's another way that total body training is more flexible. Okay, another big reason is muscle soreness and fatigue. I like doing upper and lower days quite often because I love to work my legs, but my legs are trashed for a couple days after that. And it definitely affects the quality of my workouts on those days, in between, especially if I want to do some sprinting or jumping. And I have to get real creative with how I structure my workouts and try to get most of my really intense sprints and jumps in before that leg day, just because I know I'm going to be trashed afterwards. And then it affects the type of cardio I do afterwards. Sometimes, I would maybe want to do like the stair climber or a spin bike, and my legs are just smoked.
And he has a point there, with both of us training pro athletes, they can't be going into a workout with their legs trash. Plus, you could also pull a muscle when you're doing those sprints or plyos. So you have to really separate it and really be educated on how you do those splits in order to get the maximum gains of training an elite athlete. He's definitely got a point there about the soreness. It's a very, very good point.
I have to go do the rower or something which still works my legs, because my legs would be a limiting factor there because I have so much fatigue in my legs. With total body training, even though you're doing the body parts more frequently, you're never doing so much in a given day where you just feel completely broken down the next few days. Lee Haney likes to say, and I agree with it, stimulate, don't annihilate. You shouldn't always walk out of the gym, even though it's fun to do sometimes, and I do it too, feeling like you're just totally trashed. And, I think a lot of us, we like to be really sore the next couple days and not be able to do much. And that's good to do every once in a while. But, on a regular basis, when you have a family and you want to keep up with your kids and be able to run around and go catch a football, you're going to say no to your kid because your hamstrings and quads are so sore you can barely walk down the stairs. Or if your wife needs help putting something up in the garage, you're going to say, sorry, honey, I worked out legs really hard the other day. I can't do that. And like, what's the point of working out then? Just so you can look good? So total body training, it allows you to stimulate the muscle in a way that will cause both size and strength gains, but also stay fresh enough the next few days where you can just live your life and you're not limited. If you want to be on a rec team or play a sport or anything like that, you're like, sorry guys, I can't be in the soccer match today because like my legs are real sore from that leg workout yesterday.
Really, truly, it's going to come down watching his video today. It does put a lot of things into perspective. The full body split is, say, 3 times a week. It's standard for a novice trainee or someone who hasn't trained a lot, or they're just getting into training. But full body training for a professional is actually awesome as well. Because again, they got to be fresh. They're using their brain, and your brain, when you're using your brain, basically just like working out, physically demanding on the body. You're having to focus at work and do stuff. So if you're walking around and you're tired all the time from being super sore and you just can't move around, or again, like he was saying, you want to, get with your kids, do some athletic stuff, throw the football. I was actually doing some pass routes with my daughter. She's a total badass, by the way. Let's go. But so I was running the route. She's like, Dad, you're not as fast as the girls on my team. But again, it's hard. So you want to be fresh. So you want to have a good life and work with your kids and be able to do things and not annihilate your body like he's saying. I think the full body workout or the full body split 3 times a week is probably great for, a new person or say a professional that wants to live a good life, work hard at work, but not be so tired all the time because say he's not getting the proper sleep to recover and grow. Then I feel that this workout that he's talking about is choice for that person. The standard population probably isn't going to do that. Like the younger kids, they're all about the 1-a-days. Let's go get that buff. But me personally, like I kind of gave you my split. That's what works for me. I tend to do what I do that works for me. Everyone's different. It really comes down to your schedule and what you can get in for that week. So you might have to change up based on your work schedule or what you're trying to do. But again, he's got some good points here. Greek Freak Training. Definitely enjoyed it today. And if you have any questions, comment, like, subscribe, and I'd be happy to answer some questions. I also have a fitness app in my bio. So if you guys want to jump on that fitness app and get killer results, hit me up in the messaging. Peace out, baby.
GreekFreakTraining.com